Pretty horrible booking decisions made by WWE and Triple H regarding the Backlash France event. In this video, I'm going to tell you what those mistakes were, how they could have handled it better, and I think number one is going to surprise you, but we'll get to that in a minute because Backlash France was a very interesting show for a few different reasons. Number one, the crowd. Holy moly macaroni, this show was phenomenal. They were literally chanting, going absolutely bat crap crazy from the start of the pre-show, an hour-long pre-show. They were chanting throughout. Then they were chanting all the way through the show. These fans never stopped. They made any other fan base look mediocre compared to these people. When WWE first booked this show in an arena instead of a stadium, which is a little abnormal for them to do when they go over to international markets for PLEs, they usually do stadiums. And so when they booked it in an 11,000 seat arena, it led me thinking, what are we doing here? But the beauty about arena shows is it keeps the energy in the building way better than a stadium, because in a stadium, the noise goes up and it dissipates. Sometimes it even goes out of the stadium. With an arena, it goes up and it bounces off the ceiling and it bounces off the walls, and it contains that energy and that noise very, very well. So that really helped. Anyways, at number 3, brace yourselves, y'all. At number 3, we have the women's triple threat match. It was Tiffany Stratton and Naomi challenging Bayley for the championship. Now, Bayley won the championship from Io Sky at WrestleMania 40 just about a month ago. And since then, she's really entered into a program with Tiffany Stratton. And even before WrestleMania, she was somewhat aligned with Naomi. Now, of course, Naomi, she had been part of the Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair feud with Damage Control's Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Dakota Kai. And so they pivoted towards this. And it was an interesting dynamic because they've done this. Okay, Naomi, she wants the championship, but yet she's like frenemies with Bayley. And then you have the typical heel Tiffany Stratton. Now, what I didn't like about this match was the match finish, because going into it, anytime you have a triple threat, it's usually the same case where you either have a continued storyline, but then you add someone to just have that other person get pinned, or you're building to something in the future with the new person, and or you are finishing up a story, line, feud, whatever. In this case, I thought Tiffany Stratton was booked in this match to eat the pin. I thought that made sense. She's a heel, it's a triple threat, right? You could do some weird finish where, they hit both finishers on her, and then Naomi gets dumped out and Bayley pins Tiffany, and we're off to the races. Because they've made it very, very clear that we're eventually going to be getting a Naomi versus Bayley feud. And so why wouldn't you just have Tiffany eat the pin? Because what they did instead was a little bit more, unnecessary. And here's why. Because they did this spot where Bayley and Naomi were exchanging pinfalls, and then Bayley just got a quick 1, 2, 3 and retained the title. Not only did you pin an eventual challenger, it was also, it wasn't a definitive finish where it was Bayley just, oh yeah, your champion just so happened to just pull out the win, right? It wasn't a dominant, it wasn't getting her finisher over. It just, I didn't like it because it was just meh, right? Instead of just Bayley pinned Tiffany, Naomi didn't get pinned, Naomi's still a worthy contender, let them go at it in Saudi Arabia or whenever you want to book the match. That's the issue I had with that. Now, at number 2, it was going along with the Women's Tag Team Championship match. So you had Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair challenging Damage Control for the titles. Now, as I've said in my a previous video of mine, when it comes to the Women's Tag Team titles, no one really cares about them unless you have the right talent holding them. I pointed to Bayley and Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Moné, and Naomi and Sasha Banks from a few years ago. Damage Control, they did what they did with it, but it really comes down to how WWE books these championships, which is usually lackluster. But by having Bianca Belair and by having Jade Cargill not only step up and challenge them, it brings the titles up. More importantly, having Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, Bianca Belair, who is a bona fide main eventer who has proven her worth to the fan base, and you have Jade Cargill, who is clearly on WWE's radar and trying to put her into a main event scene and status, and they've done a phenomenal job with her up to this point. But I thought they went a little too long. I thought this match dragged a little bit, and I appreciate the fact that WWE gave them time. I appreciate the fact that they kept this show under 3 hours, and I appreciate the fact that they allowed Jade Cargill to go out there and learn, get more reps, sell more, do more stuff, because I've seen the criticism of Jade Cargill not selling, or she's just doing repetitive moves, yada, 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 right? Like your typical BS criticism about Jade Cargill. I just felt like if they would have just kept this match just a little bit shorter, it would have gelled a lot better, and I think they just kind of overstayed their welcome in that sense. So, with that being said, at number 1, we have the Judgment Day getting involved in the World Heavyweight Championship match between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. So look, Damian Priest in recent weeks, since winning the World Championship from Drew McIntyre after cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase after Drew McIntyre had beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and then Damian Priest cashed in Money in the Bank to win the title from Drew McIntyre. He went into Mania as a heel, and coming out of it, he is a tweener, because we are eventually building to a Damian Priest babyface run, but I feel like they're rushing it way too quickly. Now look, I appreciate the fact that they're putting Jey Uso in a main event scene, and being a main eventer, because he is super duper over with the live fans. But I think you still could have beat him, but you could have also got more heat on him, right? Because I think the fact that you had Damian Priest, he's been butting heads with Finn Balor, he's been butting heads with JD Madonna and Dominic Mysterio and everybody, right? In Judgment Day. We're eventually getting to a Damian Priest babyface run. We're eventually getting him away from the Judgment Day. That's fine. But I think you're rushing his babyface run a little too quickly when you have over babyfaces already in the main event scene with CM Punk, Jey Uso, and eventually Seth Rollins. Right now, your only top heel on Raw is well, you have 2. You have Gunther, okay? And you have Drew McIntyre. So you kind of need a third top heel, and you can eventually get to that heel run, that babyface run down the road, right? I thought they should have had it where Judgment Day, just stay away, because Jey Uso, he needs to be protected a little bit, but Damian Priest really needs to be protective. And I thought that in this case, if you're going to pick who you're going to protect, I think Jey Uso would have been okay if he would have just ate a normal fall. And I think it would have been more important to put the championship on Damian Priest and have him be booked as a dominant champion. Right? If you're going to put the title on him, make him a dominant heel champion. He's a big guy, right? If you would have just had him beat Jey Uso, who is a very credible, worthy in the eyes of fans, or in the fans' eyes, it would have came off better, because Damian Priest needs that heat as a top heel. Instead of just this tweener where, oh yeah, he got help, right? Like, it's not even good heat of, oh, well, Jey Uso would have won the title if he wasn't screwed over by Judgment Day. Dang that Damian Priest. But in this case, it's like Jey Uso got screwed over, and oh, by the way, Damian Priest didn't even want it. So what was the accomplishment of that, right? Like, we're not putting more heat on Damian, and we're not also getting any sympathy for Jey, right? It's, well, we're eventually building to a babyface turn that really no one called for with Damian Priest. It's not like he's getting cheered or anything, right? It's very forceful in that sense. That's all I'm getting at, y'all. That is all that I'm getting